As a Rocket League player, I'm no stranger to driving fast cars. But recently I got the chance to take my Rocket League skills into the real world and drive insanely fast cars on a world-famous racetrack. I even got to sit in the passenger seat while a world champion Formula E driver showed us what it's like to race for real. This is a bit of a different video on the channel, but I thought I'd share this experience with you and take you along for the journey. Also, let me know if you like this kind of video, as it takes a lot of work to put together. You should also see some footage soon from when I head to France for the RLCS World Championships, but more on that later. Now let's get into the trip, because there's a lot to unpack here, so I don't want to waste any more time. Last month I was invited by Porsche to go to the racetrack in Monza, Italy, to drive 3 of their vehicles on the track and in different challenges. The 911 GT3 RS, the Cayman GT4 RS, and the electric Taycan Turbo GT, which comes packing with over 1,000 horsepower. The racetrack we were visiting was the Autodromo Nazionale Monza, which is universally known as the Temple of Speed, featuring tight corners and long straightaways. The track was built over 100 years ago in 1922, and it's the 3rd oldest purpose-built circuit in the world, being the first of its kind in continental Europe. So of course I said yes to the invite. So it was time to pack my bags and head to Italy with my wife. Without getting too ahead of myself, this trip ended up being insane. We visited a bunch of historical places in Milan and Rome. I reached a top speed of over 300 kilometers an hour on the track, met a lot of cool creators from other gaming communities, and so much more. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap of all the best moments from the trip. We had a long travel day ahead of us. Shannon's dad was kind enough to drive us to the airport, and everything went smoothly at the terminal. I think everyone's seen enough airport footage in their life, so we'll skip the boring stuff. Our overnight flight to Rome was about 8 hours, and when we arrived, the first thing we did was try out coffee at a local cafe. But we were a bit confused by the options. Shannon's expression says it all. They had an American coffee option, and then everything else was an espresso. So we got 1 cappuccino, and I had to see what they thought American coffee was. Our travel day wasn't over though. We still had to make it to Milan, where our hotel was, which was outside of Monza. So we had to get to the northern part of Italy by 2 trains. One train would connect us from the airport to Roma Termini, and I couldn't believe it, but on the way we saw the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Once we got to the main train terminal in Rome, we had a 2-hour wait for the bullet train. So we checked out the rest of the terminal, which was basically a giant outdoor shopping center, and went for lunch at a place called Italy. I'm sorry to the foodies who like to see meals. I wasn't fully in vlog mode as I was sleep deprived and hungry, so I kind of forgot to take any photos or video. After the 2-hour wait at the terminal, we hopped on the bullet train and prepared for a 3-hour train ride to Milan. Nothing too exciting to see, except we did see the Leaning Tower of Pisa again. We basically slept for the whole train ride. Once we got to Milan station, we found our way to a taxi depot and we were on our way to the hotel. When we arrived, there was a surprise Porsche goodie bag for both of us, with hats, thermoses, Porsche chocolates and candies, and an awesome collectible car to remember this event. Also, maybe we're too Canadian, but we couldn't figure out if this was a bidet or a foot washing station. Let's just say we didn't find out. But with all the travel out of the way, it was time for a good night's rest before I was about to drive the fastest I've ever driven in my life, and probably ever will. In the morning, we quickly ate breakfast at the hotel, where I got more of my American coffee, and it was time to head to the track for the day. We stayed at the hotel closer to the venue, along with a few other creators, so we were the first to show up. It was surreal to arrive at the track and see it completely empty and quiet. Not a single person in sight. I don't think many people get to experience this. We took a quick group photo by the Porsche Experience sign, and then we were greeted by a huge team of Porsche staff who were all very welcoming. They had a pop-up venue with catering, coffee, and a bunch of cool merch. I think it was at this point that it truly hit me. I was very excited, but also very nervous. I would consider myself a pretty good driver, but there's something about hopping into a vehicle that I don't own, especially one this expensive, that makes me feel a bit uneasy. Because if I mess up in my own car, it's my car. But I would feel horrible if anything went wrong in a car that isn't mine. And it was crazy to think that Porsche was just allowing us to hop into vehicles with this much power. I assumed they'd take us on the track with a much less expensive car first to get used to the lines, but I was very wrong. We ended up starting with one of the lightest and fastest cars, the Cayman GT4 RS, which we'll get to in a second. I first met up with a familiar face, and we explored the cars we were about to drive today. I also met a few other creators I've spoken to online before, but never met in person. It was cool to see different creators from all different backgrounds come together for such a unique experience. I originally thought maybe all creators here would be car related, but they also had creators and pros like It's Timmy and Tens, which was cool to see. Before we got to hop into any vehicle, Porsche sat us down for an orientation and safety meeting. They ran us through the track layout, safety features of the cars and track, and overall do's and don'ts while we're out in the field. We also got assigned to teams, and each team got their own instructor. Here's our team. I got grouped with Musty, Super GT, and Arev. Musty you guys probably know, but if you're not familiar with the other two, Super GT is a well-known sim racer, and Arev covers all things F1. So Musty and I were definitely the outliers when it comes to track racing experience. We were paired up with Sven as our instructor, and he broke down our schedule for the day by the cars. I think our team got a really lucky schedule, because we got to experience the track for the first time in the Cayman GT4 RS. And then it was off to the drag races and other fun challenges in the Taycan Turbo GT, with a track day finish in the 911 GT3 RS, which I know Musty was particularly excited for. since that's the car he owns and he's never gotten to take his to a track yet. With the schedule covered, we got fitted for a helmet, and then it was time to start our first track run. The Monza racetrack has long straightaways, chicanes which are alternating turns, and elongated turns with 3 main speed zones. Turn 1 is basically a 90-degree turn out of the speed trap. And I was specifically warned about this turn by Shogun on Twitter before heading to Italy. Since the drag races were happening here, we cut through the pit lane every lap. For the first track experience, we had GoPro footage of me in the driver's seat, the track view, and the passenger seat from Shannon's point of view. Hearing the engine from inside the car was definitely a cool experience. The instructor was able to radio to all of us during the drive, and he led the pack of cars around each lap. Whenever we finished 2 laps, we'd rearrange our cars in the pit lane to take turns following the instructor. What's crazy is even for the first lap around to get used to the turns, we were still going 180 kilometers an hour. And I think in the Cayman, we reached a top speed of 280 kilometers per hour once we got comfortable with the track. I think Sven was happy with this group. He seemed impressed with how well we were all able to keep up with each other. And he said the instructors only pick up speed if they see that everyone is able to keep up. After running about 10 laps on the track, unfortunately Shannon got motion sick, which was completely understandable given we're pulling about 3 to 4 Gs around some of these corners. So I stayed back for 1 lap and let her out, and then completed the final couple laps on my own. And that would be the last time Shannon stepped foot in a Porsche for the day. After we wrapped up with the Cayman GT4 RS, it was time to take the Taycan Turbo GT out for some drag races. First, our instructor showed us how to put the Taycan into launch control, which is a mode where you hold both the brake and the gas pedal at the same time, and then release the brake to launch off at insane speeds. This car, although heavier because of the electric battery, can do 0 to 60 miles per hour in 1.9 seconds. For my first launch, I reached a top speed of 305 kilometers by the end of the lane. After getting used to the launch control, it was only natural that the 2 Rocket League players went head-to-head in a drag race. We did 2 rounds, and although I won both races, Musty was much faster than me in the next challenge, the Le Mans start, which has you starting outside the car in a box, and you have to run to the vehicle, close the door, latch your seatbelt, turn the car on, and then launch as fast as you can. I had a time of about 17 seconds, and Musty's was about 15 and a half. He saved a bit of time by putting it into launch control while putting his seatbelt on. Happy with our runs, we broke for a quick lunch, and then Porsche had a special demonstration planned for us. After the lunch break, they pulled us all outside to the front of the venue for a demonstration of a crazy sounding engine.
The 4-liter engine, flat 6 boxer engine like also the GT3 RS G5. It's got 510 horsepower, high revving, 9,400 RPM.
They call the car the Pink Pig. The video and audio doesn't do the car justice because this thing was insanely loud. They were monitoring the engine for about 2 to 3 minutes while it warmed up, but once they were happy with the diagnostics, they started revving the engine. Like I said, however loud you think this would have been, it was louder. Now that our eardrums were shattered, up next we had the slalom course, which was once again in the Taycan Turbo GT. But this wasn't an ordinary slalom. We had 20 seconds to look inside the trunk of this car here, where there was a selection of random items like an umbrella, helmet, water bottle, notepad, things like that. And we had to memorize what was in the car. Once we got through the first slalom, we had to park in this bay and hop out of the car and pick up any items we saw that were the same and put them in the bin. Then we get back into the car and back out into a parking space, and then take off to go backwards through the slalom course. I had one of the fastest times, but my time was disqualified because in the original SUV there was a small gray toy car, but in the other SUV the toy car was green, and I didn't know they couldn't be different colors. But I'm still happy with my time either way. And it doesn't look as crazy seeing it from this view, but I was whipping the wheel back and forth inside the vehicle. They also gave us a chance to improve our time by 5 seconds if we can complete the mini slalom without hitting any of the cones. I picked a horrible day to wear jeans. I could barely bend my knees, but we got through it without hitting any cones. Now I don't have a lot of footage of the other 2 cars on the track, but we've already seen a lot of the Taycan Turbo GT, and it was surprisingly the slowest on the track, even with insane takeoff speeds, just because of the sheer weight and extra time needed to slow the cars around corners. So I'll skip over to the 911 GT3 RS, but from a unique perspective. Here's what it's like to take that famous 90-degree turn from inside the car. This is actually the helmet cam from Super GT, who was following behind me at this point. I was really trying to push the limits of the car and the track in the last few laps, even taking this one chicane way too hot. To avoid the gravel pit to the left, I did what the instructor said and pulled straight through the corner instead. By the end I was feeling really confident in the car, and each time we reached turn 11, I tried hitting a drift. And I actually hit a pretty nice one on this turn here. But that wraps up all the driving for me. But there was still one more thing to do on the track. It was time to go on a hot lap with Pascal Wehrlein. who was the Formula E world champion from last year. Virtual Wellen and I played rock, paper, scissors to decide who got the front seat.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Okay. Wait.
So then you get it.
So you get it.
Oh! Rock, paper, scissors, you get it, bro.
All right. Hey, who's it on?
All right, I'm in the front. I'm in the front.
Pascal was taking turns so quickly during the lap that my camera gimbal motor completely gave up at one point. That was certainly a different experience compared to driving the track on my own, and I wouldn't recommend it for anyone who gets motion sick easily. The only thing left to do after the hot lap was to have dinner on the actual track, which was one of the coolest and most surreal experiences I've ever had. It was truly an honor to be part of something so special, as this was the first of hopefully many creator Porsche experiences that they've ever run, which is super cool. And I hope I could do it again in the future. We got a group photo taken at the end of the day and had to say goodbye to the track, but I will remember this for the rest of my life. Thank you, Porsche, for this incredible opportunity, and I hope you guys enjoyed the recap of the event. If you want to see more things we saw in Italy before heading home, I thought I'd quickly drop a few clips from cool places we visited. Before we went back to Rome, we saw a few places of interest in Milan, like the Duomo di Milano, which was a massive cathedral with a courtyard in the front, along with this huge outdoor archway into a shopping center with brands like Gucci. Safe to say we did not stay there very long, but the videos of this cathedral did not do it justice. This is the second largest cathedral I've ever been in or seen, only second to the Cologne Cathedral, which made people look like ants outside. When we got back to Rome, we checked out a few places close to the train terminal, like Trevi Fountain, and also this museum, which I will say if you have a problem with bones or remains, I would not watch this part. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen, and the history behind it was fascinating. Before heading to our hotel by the airport, we went into this random building and ended up finding a giant underground mall. Then we headed to a rooftop restaurant that overlooked the city. For our final day in Italy, we took the subway to Vatican City. We had to be guided through the entrance, and since it's its own country, we had to go through mini customs. Once we were inside, we only got to see a specific section of Vatican City. But the museum was huge and had historical artifacts from all over the world. There was also a very interesting art piece in the center of the courtyard. We couldn't stay too long because we had one more stop for the day, the Colosseum, which is way bigger in person than you can ever imagine. Once we were up to the second floor, we had a stranger take photos for us. And then they decided to take this mini video for us, unprompted by the way. But I can't say I wasn't a little scared he might throw my phone over the ledge. We then took a walk through the Forum, which is a massive grounds that hosted different buildings and homes. I hope you guys enjoyed a little sneak peek into the rest of our trip, but that concludes everything we saw during our time in Italy. I really hope you guys enjoyed this vlog, and if you want to see more things like this in the future, let me know. Once again, huge thanks to Porsche for the invite to this incredible event, and until next time, have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.